Hey everybody, this is John Cheney, and I'm the host of Badass Conversations, and this is episode 5. Today we have a great guest, Mr. Neil Getzlow, and he's just written a book called Unmasked, Conquering Sexual Sin and Walking into Victory. How are you doing, Neil?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate
Uh,
it.
I'm glad you're here, man. I've been wanting to talk to you, so uh,
Yeah,
and I can't wait to read the book too. So
cool.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah, so uh, the book is pretty much about your past history as being a sexual addict, correct?
yeah, yeah. It
Okay,
details sort of my journey from porn addict to sex addict to, and then turning my life around. Through what I credit through some spiritual help from God, and
most definitely.
so yeah, it has been an amazing journey over the past 18 months to
It sounds
see
like
where
it.
my life is today, and compared to what it was yesterday, it's no comparison.
Oh, most
Yeah,
definitely. Well, that's a great thing. Is about every day they say is a new day, so it's a new journey.
yeah,
Um, this kind of hit home with me too a lot because I've had addiction in my family as well. It was alcoholism in my family. My grandfather and his father, and even my father was pretty much an alcoholic there for a while. So I understand some to the. I have to watch what I drink because I don't want to, to get into that as well. So I kind of understand some stuff. Um, but like I said, when I heard your story, I was really interested in what you had to
yeah,
say and the book and everything. So if you could just kind of
yeah.
go ahead and
Sure,
maybe tell us your story.
I'll try to do it succinctly as possible. But I mean, please stop me along the way because once I get
No, I want to hear it.
yeah,
I've heard some of it from other shows,
okay.
and I'm
All
infatuated with the
right. Well, here
journey
it
that you
goes.
went
All
on.
the grittiness and everything that went with it. So, um, like I said, I've had this porn addiction and really since the age of 9 is when I first was exposed to porn. There
Mm-hmm.
was a forest, a little wooded area behind my elementary school. I used to
Right.
ride my bike there after school with my other friends, and there'd be like this little carved out area, like kind of around a campfire, and all around the trees were these ripped up pieces of Playboy magazine. Where we that's all we got. We got the centerfolds and some pictures,
Okay.
so that's how we would spend our time.
Sure.
But really, once I was first exposed, then it just sort of porn just sort of grabbed hold of my
Mm-hmm.
mind and didn't let go. And I won't get it. We'll go. We can cover the details on exactly. I've unpacked a lot from my childhood, kind of why porn was such a
Sure.
big part of my life because I did have this hole in my heart um, that
Mm-hmm.
I tried to fill up desperately with
Mm-hmm.
something because of the loneliness and depression and anxiety that I
Most
had
definitely.
over the course of my entire life, but never it could never satisfy. So,
Sure.
but just like any addiction, I think what starts off as small grows and grows and then becomes unmanageable, and
Mm-hmm.
then you need something harder and stronger for to get the effect, and that's when you know
It's like
right.
you're
So I
never satisfied.
graduated from porn,
All
then
right.
you move
Continue.
on to like strip clubs and adult theaters, and soon that wasn't enough, and ultimately then
Mm-hmm.
I became addicted to sex, and specifically I was paying prostitutes to have sex with them through most of
Mm-hmm.
my second marriage. Um, that addiction ultimately led me to a hotel room in Chicago in February of 2020 while I was on a business trip. And I set up an arrangement to meet a prostitute in downtown Chicago in her hotel room. Went to the hotel room, getting
Sure.
ready to leave. And that's when her partner came out from the other room holding up a cell phone. He was dressed in drag. He looked like a Chicago Bears offensive lineman. but on its phone was my wife's contact information and her social media information. And he's like, "You're going to have to
Sure.
pay us more money, or we're going to call your wife." And like that's just the like just I can't even I can look back on it now and like my first instinct was, okay, that would be the worst call for my wife to get. Like, hey, by the way, we found your husband dead in a hotel room in downtown Chicago, in a prostitute's room, no
Sure.
less. Didn't want that to happen. So about $900 later, I managed to get out of the hotel room. As I'm running to the elevator, I can hear them open the door behind me though and yell, "Hey, we're going to need you to pay us more money, or we're going to call Amy." Well, at that point, elevators opened. I got out of there. But that's why I called my book Unmasked, because what I did was put my mask on, stuffed all that just happened to
Sure.
me down with all these other evil things I had in my heart, and went about my day. Had my business meetings. Nobody knew what was going on.
Right.
They didn't know I was just blackmailed by a prostitute. Made it home to Kansas City.
Right.
Obviously Amy didn't know. This other couple hadn't called, so I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to be in the clear. I'm going to get to survive. That was a mistake. I'll be much smarter now. Survive. That was a mistake. I'll be much smarter now. Well, that's when God, to keep my secret alive,
Right.
decided to intervene. For trying to get my attention, and I wasn't listening.
He does that from time to time.
After all this, but so it was then 3 days later, Sunday, March 1st, 2020 at 9:30 p.m. I'm working in my office and my cell phone starts blowing up, and it's this couple from Chicago. And again, the message is, you're going to need to pay us more money, or we're going to call Amy in 15 minutes. And again, they sent Amy's contact information to me. They had incriminating pictures of me from the encounter. So, like okay. But I kept thinking to myself, this is very naive
Sure.
of me to think, but kept thinking, well, there's no way they're going to call Amy, because once they do, then I'm not going to give them any more money. So I just thought, all right, maybe if I ignore them or just string them along, that they'll get bored
Right.
and eventually move on. Well, none of that happened, of course, because in exactly 15 minutes I hadn't paid, and then I can hear the phone ring up in my bedroom. Amy's phone rings, and I hear the muffled sounds of conversation, and then her steps charging down the stairs, down the hall into my office. The door flies open, and of course she's like, "Are you cheating on me?" And that was the first 2x4 in the head.
Right.
And of course, I did what any addict would do at the time. I lied my way out of it, saying, "This is the first time this has ever happened. I'll never do it again.
Well, sure.
I'm so sorry." But of course, I was sorry that I was caught. I wasn't sorry about any of my actions at the time. So, but I did not learn my lesson.
Right.
And so, I will also say, like, this happens March 1st. 2 weeks later, we're now locked in together because of COVID. So we got nowhere to go but trying to address this, which is kind of awkward. And it's no. I still hadn't confessed anything to Amy yet, other than just acknowledging this what I call this one time indiscretion. So about 6 weeks later, though, my addiction flares up again, and I make an appointment to go meet someone in Kansas City who I had an arrangement with. And so this is the second time God decided to visit me. I made all the arrangements over text, and I can text, on my Mac, my text messages sync up to my phone. So, like, I have everything on my computer. Amy did not have access to it.
Sure.
So I made sure whenever I left the house, especially if Amy was around, and she was, because we both weren't working at the time, I locked my computer. Because I know, all my secrets are on there. If she got into it, I'm busted. So I lock it, I walk out of the house. So I lock it, I walk out of the house. Or at least I think I locked it, because 10 to 15 minutes as I'm on my way to this. And now she's texting me the screenshots of the images from my computer. What's going on? And I'm thinking, how did that happen? I'd locked my computer. There's no way I would leave this house without without having my computer locked. Well, that was sign number two. Of course, never made it to that appointment.
Sure.
Turned around, came home, and I don't, honestly, I don't even remember what I told her. It was all just a bunch of lies, and Amy was not buying any of it, rightly so. Like,
right,
I had no leg to stand on, so so it was not a good night. And when before I went to bed, though, she's like, look, the only way you're going to be able to save your marriage is for you to ask God for help. And so I'll pause there for just a second, just to fill in that gap a little bit. So at the time, Amy and I had been married for 8 years. When we first got married, we were both non-believers. And so we both were out partying and having a good time and just enjoying all of what life had to offer.
Right.
But then 3 months after we got married, Amy told me she's become a born-again Christian. And she's telling this to someone who was born and raised Jewish, but who now considers himself an atheist. So I'm thinking, what has just happened here? Like, I've gone from this, hey, we've got this cool life we just started together, to I think you've just changed overnight. Yeah. So fast forward back to that night. So
like
that's
you do a 180, all of a sudden it's like everything's changed.
Saved, and was wanting me to ask God for help. So we went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, and she was already out of the house. I don't know where she went, so I'm laying in bed alone, and that's where I was like, well, I guess this is as good a time as any to pray. And so that's what I did, and I said, look, God, I don't know how to stop what I'm doing. I need help. I can't do this on my own. Can you just give me a sign that you're real, that you're out there, and let's see what happens. But as soon as I ended that prayer, the garage door opened up, and it was Amy. And Amy really is the key to this whole story, because without her, I'm not sure where I'd be right now. So she comes in, and I say, hey, I prayed. I want to work on our marriage. And I was, I think I was actually pretty sincere at the time. And, she reluctantly agreed to like, okay, yeah, I know we can work on things. And so later that afternoon, this is the third and final time that God tried to get my attention. And he finally did after this third hit. We're sitting on the couch talking, and this time it's Amy who gets a message. This is a Facebook message from some random guy we don't know, but all the message says is, do you know a Neil Getzlow? I don't know what inside me snapped, what compelled me, but I felt the overwhelming urge to confess everything to Amy at that point. Like, I couldn't stop myself. It just, like, as I describe in the book, like, I felt like I was about ready to throw up. You could feel it in the pit of your stomach, and it's coming up, but you can't stop it. And it just, I threw up all over the floor of our marriage, and I told Amy everything. And
I've had that
feeling. What I later found out is that that guy who was messaging her was the ex-boyfriend of someone else that I had an arrangement with. And he had all the receipts from this other girl's phone. And it was just like, I'm glad that I'm glad I said what I did to Amy. And actually, after you throw up, you feel a lot better, right? You feel kind of relieved. You're like, okay, well, maybe I'm not sick anymore. But now, of course, I'm waiting for Amy's reaction.
Most definitely.
And this is the part that changed my life. She looked up at me and she's like, Neil, Jesus forgave me for my sins. How can I not forgive you for yours? I forgive you. And it's, I don't even know how to describe it, and it's even crazy for, it sounds
awesome.
For me, it's crazy to even these words come out of my mouth. For me, it's crazy to even these words come out of my mouth. But like, you can't convince me that was Amy forgiving of my addiction just broke free, and I had not.
Most definitely, it was
since that day. This is April
working himself through her.
2020. Haven't looked at porn since. Haven't been tempted to. Have not strayed outside my marriage. Have not been tempted to. And like I said, my life is 180 degrees different than where it was about 18 months ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. That's just, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, Neil, that, like, I got goosebumps, Uh, I've seen him work too. He's worked in several times in my life as well. And, uh, one thing, it's good to hear someone else say it as well. Um, but you have such an
Mm-hmm.
amazing story. And, from going down the cellar, like a lot of us find ourselves, and then
Well,
finding God
I
and getting
appreciate
where you
that, and I
needed to
want to,
be. And
I do get
I
asked
just have the
quite a bit,
utmost
like,
respect
why
for
do you
you
want
and
to tell
your
your story? Like,
story
why
that
are
you
you so
tell.
public and
Um,
sharing the worst details of your
so,
life? And I'm like, well, I have to. Like, I feel compelled to because I want people to know that no matter what you're facing, there is hope
right,
out there. There, I know addictions are tough and they hurt people, and it's sometimes for me, I was blessed because I was able to break free very
hmm,
quickly. I know some people aren't so fortunate, and but you just got to keep asking God for help. That's what Amy did for eight
right,
years. She prayed for me, and her persistence, God finally rewarded her for it.
sure, hmm, well, sure, and of course, I've heard other people's stories as well. And do you think maybe God?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean
want to
that's
say
like
put you in
I
that
wrote that
position,
book in 4 months,
but is now
which is
using you
pretty
because you
like
were
from
in
what I
that position,
understand,
is
it's pretty
using you to help
fast.
other people
So right
now.
now, it's not the longest book in the world. It's pretty easy to read, but
four
yeah, I do
months.
feel like that's you know what I've learned now is like God's
Yeah.
given us talent and the
Right.
tool that He wants us to use, and I have been a professional writer, communication professional working in the corporate world
Most
for my
definitely.
career, doing a lot of writing. So writing was easy for me.
Hmm.
That was the talent that I had, but I'd never
Sure.
glorify God and to, you know, help again help others find that encouragement. So yeah, so it's I just this is and I will say also too, sharing the story, even though there's a lot of gruesome details, it also I always get so encouraged, and at myself of and myself of sharing the journey over because it's just like I still have to remind myself like wow, it hasn't even been 2 years like this is so it's still so
Right.
the power yeah no not at all not
Well,
at all
when he starts working, he don't
yeah
mess
for
around.
sure.
He it's like, all right, it's time to
Well, and
stop
if you
that.
think about it, the way I look at it too,
And if you don't, then I'm
like
going
this
to
all
send you
happens during
some
obviously
more
the year of
messages too.
coronavirus in
So
2020. And, in my mind, this is God's way of saying, I'm going to take away everything that you love. I'm going to take away
sure.
your porn. I'm going to take away the sex that you have with other people. I'm going to take away the sports that you love.
Hmm.
I'm going to take away your friends, the partying, the booze, the pot. I'm going to take
Hmm.
everything away that you love. And now all you have is to focus on yourself. What are you going to do?
Right.
And it was like this to me. This was just a once in a lifetime moment to reset, and that's what I
Yeah.
did.
Most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
think you get to a point, just like you said, where God was taking all this away from you. You don't have anything else. And and I believe that, he's like, okay, I've got this
Yeah,
purpose
for
for
sure,
Neil.
right?
Just like
It took me 50
I think he
years.
has the purpose. Well, I know he has a purpose for me. I still haven't figured it out yet.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I'll be 51 next month, so uh, but yeah, he lets us in these situations because he did give us, that personal choice.
Yeah.
But then he was like, all right, but now the times I've got to use you, and I think you have a greater purpose, and I think that you're onto it, and just to
Yeah.
see you light up and the joy I can see, from your heart for being released from this and now doing stuff.
Well,
It's just
I appreciate you saying that. And
it's very
yeah,
motivational. It's very it's pretty
it's
awesome.
been amazing.
Um,
But I also want. And there's so many layers to this story. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. Um,
sure.
um,
Mm-hmm.
um, about this as well, which I think is, I think especially for men, we don't
Yes.
want to admit that we need to talk to someone, or that we have mental health
Mm-hmm.
issues, but
Mm-hmm.
we and so I remember this so well that I remember this so well that the first time
Mm-hmm.
I remember this so well that I met my counselor.
Most
The
definitely.
very first question he asked me, he's like, "What was the first thing you?" Really interesting question, and I thought about it for that I had to learn how to be alone, and it goes back to that 9-year-old kid, riding his bike to look at porn
Sure.
in the forest. At that time, right after, about that same time, my parents got divorced. So, and my siblings were already pretty much out of the house. I was sort of the
Yeah.
definite young kid of the family, and I went to
Yeah.
move with my mom. I went to move with my mom. Then I went to move with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
8 to 5, had to start working, so she was out of the house 5 Monday through Friday,
Right.
and so especially during the summer, sort of took over. And it starts with this idea of, well, nobody loves me. This is why I'm alone. I'm alone, so I'm going to look at porn. And on my either side of my mom's bed, she had these two nightstands,
Sure.
and she had stacks of Playboy and Penthouse magazines on them. So that's where I started to fill up this alone heart, a hole in my heart. That's
Sure.
what I used to self medicate myself, even as a preteen. And so I'd look at the porn and I'd feel better, but then immediately after I'd feel the shame of it, and the guilt, and then it would be, well, this is why
Mm-hmm.
nobody loves me, and this is why I'm alone, and then the cycle would just
Okay.
continue, and it would manifest itself at various times and in
Sure.
different ways across the next 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was able to, finally find my identity in God, that I was able to break that
Mm-hmm.
shame cycle and turn it into something positive. And turn it into something positive.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. And know that you're not alone. So yeah. Um, I can really relate to that when you said that, us, most guys, we don't want to talk about that stuff. Um, I can relate to a couple things because I've always struggled with depression. Since I was a young kid, I would get those same feelings of nobody loves me. I'm a mess up.
Sure.
Everything I try to do, I screw up. And, and I've struggled and struggled, and until about, well, I guess August is when I told my wife, I said, I need to. I almost lost my job as being a teacher because my mind wasn't where it was supposed to be, because I was letting all this depression and anxiety and everything get to me, and then it was affecting me with the kids and with other teachers and everything. Um, so, I told her, I said, I've got to go talk to somebody. And,
Yeah.
I have a couple of people here that I work with that go through the same thing. And I tell them, man, you've got to go talk to somebody that's not, you don't know, they're not
Right.
going to judge you. And it's tough. It's tough sitting in that chair when they're
Yeah.
talking to you as well, just to kind of let go and this
Yeah.
or
I mean,
that.
and
But
I
I
can
mean,
relate to
it's
that
one of the
too, because
harder
I had
things
to,
I've done
depression
because
and
I
anxiety
grew
was
up,
part of my
I'm an
life.
older
And
guy. I grew
in
up.
those
You got to be
moments
tough
of
and you don't
anxiety,
let
that's where I
people,
would,
you know,
act
know
out,
what you're
or to
feeling and
turn
this
to
and that.
porn
And
or sex to help,
I still struggle with it.
get those
Sometimes I go in there
feelings
and she's like,
away.
"All right, what's going
So
on?" I'm like,
obviously not
"I don't
handle it
know."
in a very healthy way.
She's like, "Well,
And
all right, well,
in
just
a
tell
very
me what
healthy
happened
way.
this week." Oh,
Um,
you better
and
sit back.
I think people have this misconception about what God does in your life, because it's not all rainbows and
Mm-hmm.
sunshine, and and everything is all great. Um, uh, it's it is, but it isn't, right? Like there's
Right.
this certain amount of joy you get because like there's a plan for you and you've got a place, but that doesn't mean the anxiety
Well.
and the worry and the fears don't creep up. Um, the difference is now is that I've learned how to manage that. Yeah. And again, just for me, and this is what worked for me. It may not work for others, but for me, you know, when those moments of
Absolutely
anxiety
not.
hit now,
Now.
instead of crippling me for days, it may just be for a few minutes, an hour at the most, and then I kind of regroup.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I'd probably go and read the Bible for 15 minutes and find some passages
Right.
that help put my mind at ease, and
Right.
then I continue on. So I'm looking for more. So I'm looking for more
Mm-hmm.
for that, and have been able to learn how to deal with it just a little bit better these
Mm-hmm.
days.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's to me all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Well, sure. Yeah. Um, there was something that I was going to say, and of course, I'm old, so I just now lost it. Uh, oh, so it happens. I walk in the other room, forget what I was going to say. Um, I've learned that too. I've been through a lot of different things. There uh, at one point, uh, I lost my father. He died of hypertension or coronary hypertension. That was on July of that year that he died, and then the next year, my aunt, his sister, passed away, and then the following July, my mother died, and then the
Yeah.
next August, missed it by 2 days, my favorite uncle did. So I went through all that, and then I could go on and on about things that's happened, but then uh, about a year and a half ago, I decided I've always built things, and I teach construction here, and I do home renovations and stuff. Still with me, but I got into some financial problems, uh, some major financial problems
Mm-hmm.
where I hired some people and they didn't do the job right, and I'm still paying for it. And I got to that point. I grew up Catholic. Uh,
Yeah.
I kind of, I go to a Christian church now.
Yeah.
Um, and I always thought I was close to him, but it just got to a point. I mean, it got bad up to here recently. And, I was trying to decide, how am I going to pay all these people back? How am I going to take care of my wife? How am I going to do this and that? And finally, I just, I broke down, and I did. And I prayed, and I said, listen, Lord, I've proven I can't do this. And I need you to take this over. And, in the Bible,
I think so.
like I
I
said, I was
think so.
born
And I mean,
Catholic, so we didn't really read from the
yeah. I
Bible
mean, that
all the
just
time,
shows
but
you,
I've
I
picked
think,
it up in
the
the last
importance
couple
of
of
prayer.
years. And,
Um,
he
um,
says, cast all my worries
And it's
on you,
also
and that's
because,
what I
for
did.
me,
And
again,
things are
as
starting to
someone
get better
who grew
now,
up
and
Jewish, but
doors are starting to
I was
open for
Jewish
me,
just by
and this and that. So I think
blood
that's,
only. It wasn't
maybe
like,
sometimes he allows us to
my
be in
family
those
wasn't a
predicaments
practicing
just
Jewish
so
family.
he
My
knows that
friends
it's
were
going to
Jewish,
lead to
and they
him
were
and
maybe a
being
little
with
bit
him so
more
he can love us.
religious, if you
So,
will. And what I've discovered on my journey, it's like there's a
most
difference
definitely.
between the religion piece and having a relationship with God. And I think people can mess that up real quick, and you're worshiping
Right,
all the ceremonies and all the different
right.
rituals, and you've taken your eyes off the most important piece, which is God
Sure.
Himself. And that's, for me, that's what I have. Probably one of the biggest lessons is now I've got to. People ask me, "What do you? Well, you're Jewish, or are you
Hmm.
Christian, or what are you?" And I'm like, "Well, you can call me whatever you
Most
want.
definitely.
Honestly, I know I have a relationship with God, and that's it. I mean, like um, that's what I do, and
Yep.
all that other stuff is just
Most
it
definitely.
can it can get
Yeah.
people can get hung up on it because there's so much negative connotation at times. Just like any part of society, there's good people and bad people, and
Yes.
there's been plenty of people
Yeah.
that call themselves religious that have not acted in a way
Hmm.
that is very good. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It does. I think.
yeah,
Hmm. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. There's some of those people.
Right.
I know some. um, but I think people just. I think they make it too hard. They think they have to go through this ceremony. They have to do this. They have to do that.
Yeah, that is.
And you don't. You just have to have that
We do,
relationship.
and
And
I'm still
I
learning. Like
talk to him all day long. I
I'm
have
still
conversations. The kids think I'm
still a
crazy.
newborn
They
in
think
all
I'm talking
this,
to
right?
myself, and
So
I'm like, no,
less
I'm
than two
not.
years. I like last year, 2020
But
was the first I
it's
read the
not
Bible
difficult to
from
have a
cover to
relationship with
cover
him.
last year.
Now it is
First
difficult
time
to
ever. Um,
stop and put
Went to
all of your
church
problems on
last
him,
year for the first time
and
ever.
that
Went
trust
to
and that faith
church
that's
last year for the
tough.
first time ever.
Um,
The things that
but we
has
all
helped
learn,
me,
and
not look back
yeah.
at all was the fact that, the way I
Oh,
look
I
at
am
it is,
too.
if you want to get your body in
Yeah,
shape, what do? You stop eating chips and cookies and fast food, and you start eating salads and vegetables, and you work out. Um,
right.
but we never think about, or at least I never thought about, how do I make my my brain healthier, my emotional side of me brain healthier, my emotional side of me. How do I make that
Hmm.
healthier? Because how do I make that healthier? Because culture, which was sports in there again, because
Hmm.
I used to watch sports
Sure.
nonstop all the time, and
Hmm.
that's not healthy. Uh, at times can be a huge issue, especially when you throw gambling into it. Like,
Right.
uh,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, there you go. So, I replaced all that junk food of my culture, and I replaced
Sure.
it with what I consider the good
It,
stuff. So,
it's
reading the
easy to
Bible,
do.
going to church. It's funny. Like on
Hmm.
the Sunday now, instead of watching the NFL
Right.
all day, I'll watch it. I'll watch the Chiefs game. But
Right.
it's not life or death anymore, and death anymore.
Right.
The game or after the
It's
game,
not healthy when my
hanging
Steelers
out with
lose. I'll just
not
tell
more
you.
than anything. Should be football these days. Like, so and I'll say, I canceled Netflix and I canceled cable TV and I got rid of all that stuff that was leading me
Yes.
to temptation. Just, yeah,
Hmm. Well, sure. Right.
Hmm.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Well,
it,
sure.
it, it
I
is,
was
and
thinking about that the other night, and
I just couldn't, I couldn't fill
we
my
have
mind up with
cable, and
that
we
stuff at
have
all. I just
all that,
had to
and
break free, and so
it's
now I
just
don't have time
amazing
for
to
any of the
watch
other,
it and
for any
see
of the
how
bad stuff.
all of these bad things are being
My time's filled up
intertwined
with the
into
good
what we're
stuff now.
watching
So
now.
I'm not
And
tempted, and
I watch it
I
from a
do
different
think that,
angle. I'm watching
and
it to
I
see how they're
describe it in
trying
the
to
book
push
this
it and
way
this and
about,
that. But
like,
there's a lot of
I
people that
think
think that
for me,
that's how I'm
culture
supposed to
seduced me,
live.
because
And
when I was growing up, I
that
grew up in
it's a
the same
dangerous
time frame you
cycle
did.
that a
In
lot of
the
people are
early
living
'80s
in
is when I
because of
was a
that.
teenager, and you know, cable TV was just invented, and MTV was the number
Right,
one place to be back in the day. And yeah,
right,
that's
yeah,
right. And they actually have those videos.
with the good stuff.
Now
Yeah,
they're probably, you look at them now, they're laughable compared to the that are played today. But like that's, it was always, sex was always sold to me that way. Whether
yeah,
I was watching, whether it was in the movies, whatever, it was always sex, 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 and
hmm,
they throw in the porn. For me, like that,
right,
it screwed up my brain. Like I don't know how to describe it, but
yeah.
I couldn't differentiate between what was love and what was just
Yeah,
sex.
that's back when they played
The two were
music.
always conflated to me. I didn't know how to treat women. I didn't know how to have a relationship, and it was just I was
Oh yeah.
tainted by what I saw in front of me on TV. That's how I thought it was.
Hmm. Sure, it was.
Yeah,
Well, sure. Right, right,
I can't. Yeah, I can't even imagine um, being. And my kids are all 18 and above now.
right.
But
Well, yeah.
I
And
mean, there was,
especially, at an early age,
6 years
I
ago,
think about this a
we
lot of
had a
times.
family
I have
iPad
seventh and
that
eighth
we
graders,
found someone
and
that was doing a
just
search
what they're
for
exposed
pornographic
to,
images.
I mean, hit left
The
and
internet
right
just it is
all the
just so
time. And
easy for
I'm
kids
like, man, y'all,
to get that stuff in their
I
hands
thought it
like
was tough when I
instantly.
was growing
You
up.
pick up the phone and
Nothing
3 seconds
compared to what
later
they have, and
you're looking at
having to
whatever you want to look
try
at.
to figure things out and what's good and what's
Well,
bad. And
I was just to say I was doing research for the book. One of the stats which just blew me away was that, and I guess it shouldn't have been
hmm,
surprising because I was 9 years old, but the average age of a kid who's first exposed to porn is 11. It's just, it's not.
right,
Yeah,
sure it is. Yeah, right. Oh yeah.
yeah,
And then it,
yeah, right, yeah,
yeah. Well, I would
yeah.
have never thought
I mean,
that, but
it's tough. It's just
when they
it's a
don't know that
different,
I'm
and again,
listening
it's just
as we're working and this and
culture. It's a
that,
reflection of
I
everything.
hear and
But
see things, and
and
yeah,
I,
I
and I,
mean,
again, this, take it
not only is it
from
what they're
someone who
seeing,
used to be.
but they're
I
acting
probably
out
used to be in this
that
camp a
stuff
couple of
too.
years ago, but today
I remember when I
can
was their
sit back
age,
and
and
look
I was
and
scared to
think
hold a
this
girl's
is
hand,
what happens when the culture gets
and
away
they're
from the
way
God.
more advanced than that. Let me tell you. And
People love
it's
everything that the
scary.
world has to
It's
offer
something else,
and
and
worship.
I just
You
think,
know,
man, I'm
like
glad
for
I'm
me,
not your
like
parents.
I go back to sports. Like I idolized every football player, every baseball
Sure.
player that I enjoyed watching. I idolized them and treated them like like a god. And my mood was set based on whether or not
Uh-huh.
my team won on Sunday. And if my team didn't win on Sunday, it was not a good week.
Right. Most definitely.
Yeah, not, yeah,
Hmm.
sure. Yeah. Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there, Neil. I've gotten a lot better, but I'm a huge
Yeah.
Pittsburgh fan. Have been since the '70s with Mean Joe Green and all those guys. And they got beat. Them, or I've always been an Alabama football fan
Yeah,
too,
that's
and
right.
they got beat. I mean, I was throwing things and
It's
yelling and
entertainment.
cursing, and
It's entertainment. It's
it
good.
just
Yeah,
wasn't
it's good
good.
for the
And
community, good bonding. But yeah, it's
then my
definitely
wife,
not.
she never watched
Definitely
football, and
not.
I got her into it, and she started
Oh,
watching Pittsburgh with me,
yeah.
and now she's the
Mhm.
one who gets all tore
Yeah.
up. Why
Yeah,
are you so
for sure.
calm? I was
But
like, honey,
it's
it's,
like that
it's
was,
just a game.
for me, that was also,
I have no
I would
money in it, or anything in this.
go out and
They're
watch
going
the
to get
sports
beat,
games
and
and
you know
drink
what? We're going to live, and we're going to
excessively
be
with my
fine.
friends. Amy wouldn't go,
they'll
so I
they'll
would
lose
leave the
again.
home alone. So, not only was I doing things I shouldn't have been doing out of the house, but I was neglecting my family at the same time.
Well, sure, yeah,
So,
but it's easy to get on that and feel like you're part of the team, and you just lost the Super Bowl, and
now, yeah. And I will say, I want to make sure I point this out because I don't think I have yet. Like our marriage today is the way a
uh-huh.
marriage should be. Like
Yep.
we have completely turned around, and yeah, it's just we're this is how I always imagined
Right.
being married would be.
Right.
Being with your best friend
Yeah.
and someone you want to spend time with. Like
Yeah, and
it's
that's
just
that's easy
I
to
wasn't
do.
there before, and
I've
it
been.
was miserable. And even Amy
I'm
would
starting to
admit that
see
she
that
was
I've
miserable
been.
too. I
I've
just,
done that as
I'm
well,
grateful that
and I'm trying to
she,
work on it.
had the patience to wait and to pray, and then her forgiveness, which was the greatest gift I ever received. But I'd say
Awesome.
her forgiveness was also probably more for her than it was for me because it helped her let go of all the bitterness. Like, if she wouldn't have been able to truly forgive me, then
Sure.
that bitterness would still be there, and it would
Yeah.
just be this. It would be the
Yeah.
stumbling block that we would never be able to to get over
Yeah.
in our marriage.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Good.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, it's called Unmasked: Conquering Sexual Sin and
Oh
Walking in
yeah.
Victory, and it really, sort of outlines kind of my journey. Um,
Right. Yeah.
my journey to that
Yeah.
hotel
Not
room in
forgiving someone,
Chicago,
that does just as much,
um,
probably
and
more
kind of what led me
damage to
there, and
yourself than it does to other
how
people.
the
Um,
things that happened to me in
I,
my
I
childhood,
understand that.
how I let
Um,
how I
so
let that
let's
affect
talk
me,
about the book
and
that you
and
wrote.
impacted all
Yeah,
the decisions I made
I'm sitting
up
here
until that
just taking
point,
all this in.
impacted all the
I'm
decisions
loving
I
talking
made
to you, but
up until that
you did write a
sort of
book,
talking about
and so I
how I
want to
was
talk
able
about
to
that as
get out
well.
and to have this new life that I just can't. I still just blows my mind to think that
Right.
this is all real and all happening, but this is
Hmm.
all real and all happening. But you go to my website, neilgetzlow.com. You can learn more about
Sure.
me. My social media channels are on there, and you can connect with me or drop me an email. You can also buy the book. from the website
Right.
as well. And if you buy the book from my website,
Right.
if you buy the book from my website,
Yeah.
not only will you get a special autograph on my website, not only will every book sold to Run to Stop tradition from organization that our church runs,
Most definitely.
tradition from it. It's an here in Kansas City that is to be in a position that we can help in some
Mm-hmm.
small way.
Right.
So yeah, just go to the
Sure.
website, neilgetzlow.com, Neil.
Okay.
Uh, no, you can get it on Amazon too. So if you sort of, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate that, and and I'll just say again for anyone who
Awesome.
might be suffering from addiction and especially porn addiction, for the
Sure.
guys out there, like you know,
Okay.
think about what the damage you're doing to yourself,
Yes.
physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I think we do a lot of damage that
Yeah.
we don't realize.
Well, that's
I've
awesome.
experienced it all,
And where can
but
they buy the
also
book?
encourage you to think about the other side of the camera and those
Oh,
people
okay.
that you're looking at, or those
Yeah, I
people that
heard that. I didn't know if it was on,
you're
if it'd be in
visiting,
bookstores or anything like that as
and
well.
think about the damage that they might be having physically,
Okay.
emotionally, mentally,
I want to do anything
spiritually.
I can to help
That's one
promote
of
you there in
the
your
hardest
book.
things
So,
that I learned
and I'm going to buy a
on my
copy.
journey
So,
is that a lot of these people are
yes, most
trafficked.
definitely.
They're there against their
Right.
will, and it's a big problem, and more younger kids are getting sucked
Hmm.
into it, and it's just something that obviously I'm gonna, this is my passion point that I'm gonna try
Hmm.
to help, help set the record straight on it
Yes.
from my point of view and talk about the dangers of it and how it led me.
Right.
From my point of view and talk about the dangers of it and how it led me. But again, there's, no matter what there is hope. You just, ask God for help and then go talk to some people
Sure.
and just take it one day at a time and try to climb out of that hole. It's not going to be easy. It hasn't been easy for me necessarily, but
Yeah.
if you keep at it, it
Yes.
will pay off. If you keep at it, it will pay off.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. No.
There you go. Bonus.
It's worth it. Right. Well, Neil, I'm going to tell you, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I can't
I'd
wait to
love
get
to.
this
I tell you,
show
my
out
wife and
so
I are already
people can hear
talking
your
about for
story and hear
2022.
the awesome things that you're
Our
doing.
goal is to
Um,
write
I will
part two
have
of the book,
all of
but
his
it's from
information,
the
his
point of view of
website,
Amy
all the social media
versus
stuff on
you,
the
because
show
I
notes
think
as well for those
as much as
listening.
my story is going to help
Um,
men out there, I think Amy's
and
story is going to help
go
even
buy his
more
book
for the women
if you're
out
listening
there,
to
for the
me.
marriages
Hopefully
that
you
need,
are. But go buy his
that need
book. And
some
not only will you
encouragement.
get a lot
So
out of it, but you'll also be able to help people as well. And you get it autographed. So,
yeah,
yeah.
so we'll be
So,
back. We'll be
Neil,
back to
man,
talk.
I took a lot of your time today, but I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm going to let you go. And good luck and everything. And I'd like
Obviously,
to
pray to
have you
God.
back on the show maybe one
Obviously, pray to
day, and
God.
we can talk about how
Obviously,
things
pray
have
to God.
gone and this and that.
Obviously, pray to God. Obviously, pray to God. You as a child.
Hmm.
And that's where that's where
Oh
this what
yeah,
I discovered was this shame, and that's where this what I discovered was this shame, and
sure.
that's where this what I discovered was this shame.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that that's a great idea. Yeah, and most people don't think of
We're
the other
donating
person.
$5.
So, uh, yeah, most definitely. I can't wait, man. So you have a good one, and I appreciate it. And that's the show.